Hello and welcome back to episode 14.
You cannot. That slurp. I'm sorry. That's not going to go down well, mate. That's actually going to sound horrendous.
It's fine.
Don't do it again. Please move away from the microphone. Anyway, yeah, 14. Big news this week. Yesterday, this is Tuesday, the 5th of November, fireworks night. Yesterday, basically the deal went through that Merlin Entertainments is going to be private now.
Yeah.
Which they've been doing since June.
Yeah, so earlier in the year, we learnt that, Merlin were going to be bought out by a few different companies acting together. So, it's complicated, right? And you've been doing some research on this.
Been doing some research.
So Zoe's...
It's not very detailed research. It's just surface level, like, what I can understand.
I did some research back when it actually was initially going through. So I'll let you head this, and then I'll pitch in if I've got anything to add. But let's go over the gist of what that means. So Merlin as a company was public originally. Yeah. Well, fireworks. Sorry about the fireworks.
If you can hear these fireworks, there's no point us trying to cover it up.
Yeah, so Merlin as a company was public, which means that they float on the stock market.
Yeah.
Which means anyone can theoretically buy shares, and Merlin has to please those shareholders, right?
Yeah, so the actual definition of a public company is that they've sold some or all of their company to the public via an initial public offering. So the shareholders have a claim to part of the company's profits.
Yes, and they get paid back in dividends.
Yeah. So the main difference between public and private is the way that they get their money, essentially. So public, like we just said, get it from the shareholders, whereas private is just owned by whoever. Sometimes it's the founder, sometimes it's just managers or investors. So they don't have to... They raise their own money. Mm-hmm. And they don't have to answer to anybody.
No, so they answer only to the people within the company.
Yeah, they do what they want.
A public company has to answer to its shareholders.
And rightfully so, because they essentially own it.
Yes, so whoever has the most shares will have a large direction in terms of the company will follow their direction.
Yeah.
So what does that actually mean in terms of the changes going forwards? What could it mean?
Well, obviously they don't have to answer to anyone, so they don't have to file things. They don't have to disclose everything anymore. They don't have any shares on the stock exchange, and then they don't have to tell you their financial information anymore. Uh-huh. So I don't know if that means, like, we're not going to know how much they're making.
I think that is pretty much the gist. It depends, though. Some companies have to. Anyway.
Some companies probably just want to or need to or whatever, but yeah, it could mean that we don't know how much they're making. But that's basically it. Like, I feel like when I read the news and the news came out, everybody was like, oh my God. And it just seemed like such a massive deal. But when you actually look at it, it's not actually that much different.
Mm-hmm. So have you got the names of the people that bought the company?
Well,
there's two people, right? Two companies, or is it three?
It was,
Blackstone.
Right, and these other people called Kirkby Invest.
Kirkby Invest, yeah.
And they've got a few quotes on the article that I read.
Yeah.
They would like to realise the company's potential to grow.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's all just your commercial crap, right?
Yeah.
Who was the last investor?
I don't know.
There's one more, no? Or is there one more? Actually, I think there is one more.
Hold on.
So yeah. So instead of, as Zoe said, instead of a public company getting money from people, these investment firms have bought Merlin as a company, and these investment firms will invest in Merlin to try and get some money back, obviously in terms of profits and whatnot. So what this essentially means is, if you're a public company, your shareholders could be anyone, right? It could be this guy called Jeff who has no idea about how theme parks or attractions are run, but wants his money to grow, right? Whereas these new people who have bought the company, they're actually, most of them are already amusements orientated.
Well, it's the Legoland people.
This is it. Kirkby is the people who own Lego as a brand.
Yeah.
Not Legoland, but Lego as a brand. And then Blackstone actually used to own Two Swords, I'm pretty sure, back in the day.
Yeah, they're
which became
like
Merlin.
in it as well. It's all the investors are ones that have kind of already been investors.
Exactly. So
They're just taking it for themselves now.
Merlin's been bought back by amusement people.
Yeah.
And these people will obviously understand what it takes and what some of the harsh realities of being an amusement operator is like, so that every time there's something maybe not bad, but if a forecast isn't quite going where they want it to be, it's not like the stock price is going to plummet, because they understand that is the case.
Yeah.
So what we should hopefully see is there be more focus on being an amusements operator and less focus on pleasing these random stockholders. Mm-hmm. That's the gist, right?
You'd think, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that was interesting is the offer was 4.8 billion pounds, and they said that the price agreed was lower than it would have been 2 years ago because of the Smiler crash.
What
And
would have been more 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're saying that since their initial public offering, when it was open to the shareholders the first time, they've significantly grown in revenue. Mm-hmm. But obviously in recent years, they've started to decline. And I think that's why they've done it. Because I had a look at other companies who have gone private in the past, and I found that Dell did in 2013,
right,
when they were in decline as well.
Oh, okay.
The CEO, Michael Dell, and Silver Lake took it private for 6 years, and they started making loads of money. They weren't losing a lot. And then in 2018, is that 6 years after 2013?
No.
Anyway, after 6 years, they decided they wanted to go back to public again.
Okay.
Which nobody really had an answer as why, but I think it's because they wanted to raise a lot of money to expand again. Because obviously, you can only do so much. You can't expand really quickly out of nowhere if you haven't got random money being raised.
Yeah.
You have to use the profits you make and expand on what you've got.
Yeah.
So that was interesting, that if a company goes in decline, that's probably one of the main reasons why.
Yeah, I think it partially was, well, if you look at the share price, Merlin's share price peaked in 2014.
Yeah.
And then has been on the decline since then. It wasn't just a result of the Smiler crash, that was a part of it, but they have been on the decline since. So yeah, it's interesting. It's all very, economicsy.
Yeah, which I don't really understand. No. But essentially, hopefully now they can just continue to make a bit more profit every year, and then instead of investing the profit in something that is deemed to be profitable in itself, they can actually do what's needed. Yeah, but obviously still making a profit, but
a company's public will always be trying to look at, every company is trying to look at the return on investment, which is, if they put in X amount of money in the long term, how much is that going to give them back? Mm-hmm. Or how much value is that going to give them? And if you're a shareholder, you're always looking for, as you said, good rates of returns. Not rate of return, rate of what? Investment.
Investment.
So it means that everything that's worth a lot of money has to be deemed to be worthy of spending that money on.
Yeah.
Whereas, as you said, if it's a private company, you won't always have to do that.
Yeah.
They'll be much more focused, hopefully, this is a big hopefully, on improving customer satisfaction, not always on building this one ride and neglecting everything else.
Yeah.
It'll be much more, hopefully, about fixing things generally and improving things generally. Because you can't have, as Merlin wants to do, they want to be the number one amusements provider, the number one attractions company. They're second to Disney, but you can't be number one if all you have is these excellent single editions, but the rest of the park is crap. Yeah. There has to be a focus on customer satisfaction as a whole, and in recent years they haven't really been able to do that.
One of the quotes that they actually said was they wanted to focus on longer term investments. So I feel like they're really going to get their game plan going and sort things out. not just like quick fixes. Not that
Yeah.
they really do that, but kind of like they can think longer now because they're just doing what they want to do.
Yeah. Well, this is it. I think Merlin put out a video yesterday, and one of the things they said, obviously because some of the people who have bought the Merlin are Lego, who people who own Lego.
Yeah.
They want more of a synergy between Lego and Merlin as a whole. Mm-hmm. So they said that from now they're going to spend about 6 months coming up with a plan for Lego and how to incorporate it more and synergize more with the rest of the Merlin brand.
Right.
Because they said that you don't, when you see Lego, you don't think of Merlin, but they want you to think of this whole thing.
Right. They want to connect the brands together.
They want to connect the brands together. They want Merlin to be known as Merlin, not Madame Two Swords, Legoland, Alton Towers, you know.
Yeah, because I feel like before I got into this whole enthusiast game, I didn't really know what Merlin was at all.
No.
Obviously, you got a Merlin annual pass, but like literally, I just thought that was the name of it.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a company at all. I just thought they called it that because it was cool.
And we're already seeing some of this synergy actually with Lego. Gardaland for 2020 are opening a Legoland, a Lego themed even water park.
Right.
Legoland water park, whatever. And obviously that's not a Legoland park. That's at Gardaland in Italy, which is
just a Merlin park.
Yeah, one of Merlin's flagship resort theme parks. So I think we'll probably see more of that going on because I imagine that the people who own Lego will want to invest in Lego related things.
Well, yeah.
To some degree, right? Because obviously,
then they're spreading their brand and that's spreading how much people are going to spend on Lego.
If they can put Lego stuff in the shops of these parks, then exactly. So I imagine they will want to spread Lego out more. So we might.
I'm here for that. I like Lego.
Well, we might see more Lego brands in some of the resort theme parks. Maybe even see Lego brands in some of the midway attractions.
Yeah.
Again, which is all cool to be fair, and as you said, I'm quite happy with that as well. Obviously, it needs to be done well, but this is it. We might see things could either go in the way that they just have a really big push on Lego.
Yeah, and all their money goes into Lego.
Or things won't change, or they're gonna improve everything long term, as you said.
Yeah.
So
I mean, who knows, really?
Who knows what's going to happen? It's probably going to be a mixture of all three, where there's a big push on Lego, but in some places there's fixes, but in other places nothing.
But in a way, a push on Lego is still improvement.
Yeah, investment's investment.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's going to be less building, hotels and things with big rate return on investments. And more so, here's a small attraction that fills a gap. Here's a small attraction that fills a gap. And then over long term, you see these small attractions
bringing everything up.
Exactly. Accumulate into this one bigger picture. Hopefully we'll see that rather than individual singular investments that have there's no connection.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We got a few questions from people. A lot of people were asking, nobody seemed to know really what was going on or what any of it meant, which is, I feel like, how most of us were when the news came out. So I feel like hopefully we've explained it a little bit now. Mm-hmm. But some people did have questions. Henshu03 says, how could these changes affect the addition of new rides?
Well, for the foreseeable future, for the next few years, parks would have already had the game plan in for their next editions, right?
Yeah.
So anything that was in motion will still be in motion. It's not like it's going to be cut. So we won't really see the effects of this for a while. But what it could mean, as we said, for new rides, is that there's less of a focus on singular big additions that have big return on investments and more thought as to what do we need long term to improve these parks long term.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that the investment cycle will diminish. In terms of Merlin are usually quite good at putting out big things every so often. I can't imagine that'll change too much.
I feel like it'll either stay the same and they'll just be smarter about things, or they'll just add a few more bits every time.
Yeah.
I can't imagine they'd stop doing what they're doing.
No.
Because it's clearly working well.
Yeah. So, this is it. We'll see. Hopefully, it'd be good if Merlin looked to some other theme parks within, the world that have been successful recently.
Yeah.
your likes of Europa Park, who are seemingly managing to bump up visitor numbers every year.
Energyland, yeah.
Well, Energyland is a different case.
It's a whole
if you put in
new ball
12
game.
billion roller coasters, you're going to get attendance.
Billion.
But things like the Efteling, where the big investments do only come every so often, but there's these smaller things in between.
Yeah.
Their attendance over the past 10 years is shot up.
Yeah.
So hopefully we see them, and we see the people who own them, the investment companies, look towards these other parks, think about how and why they're being successful, and implement that into the Merlin parks as well.
TNT X-Man says, do you think this will be beneficial to the company?
I think it could be beneficial. Well, to the company is like, what does that mean?
To
are
the
they going to be
company
more
or to
successful?
us?
Exactly. To the company, are they going to be more successful? Who knows?
Yeah.
But to us, as I said, there's a potential for it to be better.
If they carry on being focused, it depends what they're going to do. It's not all...
It's not clear.
Yeah. They can do whatever they want.
It's not binary, exactly, yeah. So we'll see. It's really hard to gauge.
Alex says, my stocks are going. What's your opinion of what's happening to the stocks?
Well, if you own stocks in Merlin, right, and if you own stocks in Merlin and you didn't buy them when Merlin was at their best, like you shouldn't, right? You probably did quite well, because when they got bought out, the stock price was bought out for a considerable margin above where the stock was floating at that point. I think it was like something like 80, 70p. I think it was like 350 or so.
Yeah, they sold for like 430.
And it was bought for 430. So if you bought your stocks at any decent time, you probably would have made some money.
Yeah.
So there you go. You can't buy stocks anymore.
Theme park photography says, will this change the funding to the parks?
Well, it could do, right? This is it now. Merlin might not have invested in parks that they know there wouldn't be a return on investment.
Yeah.
Okay? So they might have not invested in a lot of money in Thorpe Park, for example, because they don't think the return on investment would be good enough, but they'll be willing to invest in Legoland, Windsor, because they expected good return on investment.
Yeah.
Whereas now, that might change to try and bring all the parks up to a high standard. They'll have to invest in all of them regardless.
Yeah, or things like, for example, you know how Alton Towers don't really have any flat rides?
Exactly, yeah.
They might start putting more money into Alton Towers so they can get flat rides instead of just big investments that are profitable.
Ideally, yeah. Hopefully we do see not just big additions, but additions that spread out and fix some of the lacking areas of the park. Maybe we'll even see money that goes into the parks just to fix things, just to improve.
Maintenance.
Exactly. Which, where's the return on investment of just, here's £1 million to make the park look nicer?
Park,
there's no real value except maybe increased customer satisfaction.
Yeah.
So
and then people were just sending us in their opinions and their thoughts. Yep. Phoenix Brown says, I don't think it will change much. If anything, prices could go down in a few years.
I wouldn't expect prices to go down.
Who knows? But based on things like Dell, I don't think they will.
No, they won't go down.
Let's hope not. Caleb says, hopefully they will focus more on the parks and the customers instead of dividends and money.
Well, this is it. It's a company that wants to earn a profit, just like any company. So there's always a focus on profits.
They're not going to be giving us free rides, you know.
But hopefully there's less of a focus on, dividends and stockholders, and more of a focus on customer satisfaction and customer experiences, especially from these investment firms that are attraction based,
Someone says, I honestly don't think anything will change with the parks themselves.
Well, yeah.
I don't think it's anything that we're going to notice, because first of all, we don't know where they were planning before.
Well,
we don't know what they were going to do if they didn't go private.
Yeah. Well, as I said, any major projects that were already in motion will still be in motion.
Yeah.
It's only the long-term plans that might get an overhaul.
Yeah.
And we don't know what they are.
No.
So there's not going to be a clear-cut transition between
exactly.
Here's what it was before, here's what it was after. It's going to be...
They'll just maybe slightly get better at what they're doing over
Well,
the next 5 years.
Hopefully. But the parks probably won't change. I mean, I don't think they will, based on... Why would they?
Well, the thing is, like, these people who are now owning it, right? They're the people who were doing it before.
Yeah.
The only difference in this deal is that now their money is coming from them and not from the stock market. So, like, anything they were doing is probably essentially the same.
Yeah.
They just have slightly more freedom of, like, they don't have to ask to do anything or whatever.
If we look back to the Two Swords era, which is when this kind of happened, or when these guys, it was a private company.
Yeah.
There was a lot of investment across the board, not just on big roller coasters. There were still roller coasters, but the investments were much more spread out and less kind of strategic and more, how do we improve kind of thing. So hopefully it'll go back to that, but we'll see.
Andrew says probably not much change to start with, but it could make it easier to plan long-term investments. Also, the Lego owners were already a big shareholder and they'll still have a vested interest in Legoland at least.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree.
Definitely.
Okay.
So there you go. Hopefully you've learned a few things and maybe understand everything a bit better.
Yeah, I mean, I have. Literally, I know nothing apart from what I've just Googled, so
there you go. So hopefully you've learned something. And hopefully you know that there is scope and there's potential for improvement of these parks. It's not all doom and gloom, you know. It's not like it's going to shut them all down or whatever.
Yeah.
These companies will have a vested interest in these parks specifically and the attractions specifically. So, and they're amusement based. We'll see. We've got to wait a few years to really see what's going to happen. So
yeah, it'll be interesting.
it will be interesting.